Hello, good evening to all of you, and welcome to An Academy. Welcome to another session in our Conquer Prelims program where we bring for you the entire compilation of places in news which have been in headlines or in discussion somewhere or the other through the year of 2025. Now, why should you watch the session and what should be your approach for this session? So, here we are going to discuss the maps, the location, and also the salient features of various different areas which have been in news. Now, we are going to cover exhaustively the various different countries, for example, Venezuela, for example, Iran, all those regions in detail. So, you should also look at, for example, some of the physiographic regions of that area. For example, Zagros Mountains are situated in which part of Iran. So, that is how you have to approach it. Wherever possible, we shall also be discussing in between some of the practice questions so that your effort should be that while attending the session itself, you are able to attempt those practice questions and get the solution thereby. Other than that, first of all, we are going to discuss the areas of the world, the global places in news, and then we are going to come to India centric places in news, including some of the protected areas, national parks, wildlife sanctuary, Sir Creek, etc. Now, the link for downloading the entire PDF of the session shall be shared in my Telegram channel, and you can also take a look at it in the description below. So, without further ado, let us initiate the discussion with the first place in news for 2025, that was Kara Sea. Now, Kara Sea is an important area which is considered to be the marginal area of the Arctic Ocean. Now, where is this Kara Sea situated? And what are the other regions closer to Kara Sea? So, if you take a look at Kara Sea, it is to the northern part of Russia and it is surrounded by which water body? So, to the west of Kara Sea, you will find the presence of Barents Sea. Mind you, this Barents Sea was in news throughout the year of 2024 as well, because the melting and the freezing of Barents Sea would impact the monsoonal phenomena that we experience in India. Now, to the east of Kara Sea, you find the Laptev Sea. Now, here you find the series of islands, the archipelago, that is your Novaya Zemlya. Now, this Novaya Zemlya, by the way, had been one of the strategic locations where USSR, the Soviet Union, would oftentimes deploy their defense resources, would test certain explosives, bombs as well. So that is again one of the very key areas for Russia even today. Now, in the region of Kara Sea, you will find the presence of a peninsular protrusion of land. That is your Yamal Peninsula. Now, this Yamal Peninsula is also rich in mineral resources. So, here you have the strait, that is the Kara Strait. So, a question can be asked that Kara Strait connects which two water bodies? Is it the Kara Sea and the Laptev Sea, or Kara Sea and the Barents Sea? So, Kara Strait ends up connecting Kara Sea with the Barents Sea. Now, here, the water freezes during the winter months, and there is much of a variation in terms of salinity due to freezing and melting. So, it covers an area close to around 880,000 square kilometer and is a marginal sea of the Arctic Ocean. Now, it has been named after the Kara River, and it is formed during the Ice Age due to the melting of the glaciers in the Arctic region. Now, another region in news, which is still in news, that is the region of Greenland. Now, Greenland, which is an autonomous region under the suzerainty of Denmark. Now, US has been expressing a lot of interest in terms of acquiring Greenland. Now, here we will discuss a couple of things. First of all, the locational aspect. So, what do you have to take a look into when you take a look at Greenland? So, first of all, Greenland, where is it situated? It is situated in the realm of the Arctic Circle. In the region of the Arctic Circle is where you will find the presence of Greenland. Now, here it is surrounded by narrow water bodies, which separates it from the nearby larger continental land masses. For example, you have the presence of Davis Strait. This Davis Strait separates the Canadian region from Greenland. It is a narrow region and a narrow water body. In the narrowest area, it can be around 16 miles itself. Then you have the Denmark Strait. Denmark Strait separates Greenland from the region of Iceland. So that is where it becomes important. Then here you have the Baffin Bay, which extends further into the coastline of Canada, northern portion of Canada as well. Then you have the Kennedy Channel in the northern extent of Greenland. Now, when you consider the region of Greenland, Greenland is an autonomous area under the sovereignty of Denmark. Now, this is a region which is very rich in mineral resources. When we say rich in mineral resources, so here we mean all variety of different types of mineral resources are present here. So an autonomous territory. Now it has got rugged coastline. Why? Because of the presence of ice shelf and the erosional action which happened during the last ice age, during that time as well. So the land in the interior portion is completely frozen throughout the year. It is the coastal areas which ends up melting, and you have the topsoil which is now the key minerals that you will find here. So here, not only do you find the presence of oil. Now, oil is the key resource the world is after. So the amount of oil which is considered to be present only in onshore region of Greenland is almost equivalent to the oil reserves in the entirety of United States. That large a territory of United States, almost all of it is found to be present only in the onshore area. Greenland also has offshore oil reserves, but again, exploitation and extraction has not been done owing to the remote location of this place. Other than that, you will also find the presence of rare earth elements. For example, yttrium, niobium. These are some of the rare earth elements that you will also find in the region of Greenland. Other than this, Greenland is also said to host some amount of gold deposits, uranium. All of these are also found. Now, from here, UPSC can ask you a different type of question in the prelims examination. Why is it that Greenland is so rich in all these different kinds of minerals? The reason being, Greenland has been close to the fissure zone where the plates are drifting apart. So, frequent volcanism, the ancient volcanism, obviously, that has embedded some of the minerals such as gold, copper, etc., within the deeper layer of the rocks. Then you have the presence of graphitic rocks also, owing to the presence closer to the fissure zone. And then you also have the rare earth elements. The case of even some lithium reserves are said to be present in Greenland, and that is because of the presence of hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents, okay? Now, these hydrothermal vents are through which you have water, right, at very high temperature, even steam, sometimes dissolving some of the nutrients from the deeper portion and coming closer to the surface, due to which you will find the presence of these rare earth elements as well. Then, Santorini Island in Greece. Now, Santorini Island was in news due to large number of underwater eruptions and seismicity which was observed in the area. It was actually earthquakes. Lot of earthquakes were observed in these areas. Now, Santorini is an island, is a kind of a holiday destination, so to say, in the region to the southeast of area of Greece. Now, it is surrounded by water bodies from Ionian Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. You will find various and Aegean Sea as well. These are the water bodies which surround Santorini. Now it is at a point of meeting of two of the plates. You have the Aegean plate and also some parts of Anatolian plate. So that is why this is a region and a zone of high seismicity. All these are minor plates which tend to move with respect to each other. So that is the region of Santorini. Now it is located in the Cyclades archipelago. So here again, a different question can be asked. Cyclades archipelago is a part of which country or which region of the world? The Cyclades archipelago is situated and includes all these islands that you observe in the region of Greece. Okay, so that is Cyclades archipelago. Now here you had 200 undersea earthquakes with a magnitude close to around 4.6. Now here you also have an older caldera, right? Now this caldera is close to the region of Crete. Crete, the known the name is from the chalk-like deposits that you find in this area. The convergence of African and the Aegean Sea plate is what has led to the volcanic eruptions, the formation of caldera, the creation of these islands, and also you will observe the reason for seismicity. Now, before moving on to the next question and the next region in news, an announcement for all those appearing in the prelims examination. It is very vital and important for you to basically test yourself against the best kind of questions which can be framed for the prelims. So that is why we have brought for you the Unacademy Revision Test Series URTS, and there 2500 plus high quality prelims question, subject based online tests. All of this will be available at a price of 19,999. You can apply the code IS English and you can avail this offer, and do test yourself, do practice as many mocks as possible before going into the prelims exam hall. Now, looking at some of the countries which have been in news. Now, amongst the countries in news is the country of Niger. Now, why it has been in news? Owing to the fact that you had Indians being kidnapped in this country of Niger. So, Niger is situated in the region here, in the some part of Sahel region and some part of the Saharan region of Africa. Okay, so this Niger region has also got multiple mineral deposits, but again is experiencing a substantial amount of lawlessness in the region. Now, here, if you take a look at the region of Niger, to the south, you have the country of Nigeria, then you have Mali, right, Algeria. So, the northern part of Niger is very much a part of the Sahara Desert ecosystem itself. Now, then you will find some of the massive like structures, some of the hill like structures. Mount Gribon is also present here. So, Western African landlocked country bounded by which countries? So, Algeria, then Libya, Chad on the east, Nigeria and Benin, and to the west by Burkina Faso and Mali. Now, the country takes its name from which particular river? It is the Niger River. Now, it does hold a substantial amount of uranium resource. In fact, the famous mining zone of Tim-Mersoy, that is where you have one of the highest grade of uranium in all of Africa, which is produced from the Tim-Mersoy basin of Niger. Other than that, you also come across the Agadem Basin region. Now, this Agadem Basin region is the area of oil surplus, substantial amount of oil produced. Now, here the resources are there, but the production has still not gained that momentum. It is still in a nascent stage. Other than that, Niger is also a country which has got substantial amount of gold reserve. Then to the south of it, Nigeria. Nigeria has been in news owing to the US attacks on the country as well. Other than that, there have been various different issues and news of violence throughout the year of 2025 in the country of Nigeria. So, when you talk about Nigeria, first of all, important to take a look at the neighboring region as well. So, Benin, Niger, we have just seen. Then you have some portion of Chad, and then you have Cameroon, with the capital city at Abuja. Now, here, if you take a look at the topography, so here you will find the coastal area is where you will find substantial amount of population to be settling down as well. Now, you will find the presence of the Niger River. Okay, Niger River is the one which drains through here and then forms a large deltaic stretch. You have Lake Chad here, okay, and then you have the population majorly settled around Lagos. Okay, so topography of Nigeria consists of plains in the north, as you can see, substantial amount of plains in the north, and interrupted by plateaus and hills which are in the center. Right, the Borno plains in the northeastern corner extend as far as Lake Chad. So, where is Lake Chad? Lake Chad was asked in the prelims examination earlier as well. The location of Lake Chad at the boundary region between Chad and Nigeria. Okay. Now, here, Niger River forms a very vast and fertile delta in what is known as the Sokoto region of Nigeria. Okay. Then Strait of Hormuz. Yes, the capital city around Lagos. Yeah, correct. Then you have the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz, owing to the threats by the Iranian state to block the Strait of Hormuz. Now, when we say Strait of Hormuz, so this is a very narrow water body which ends up connecting two important shipping lanes, that is the region of Persian Gulf and also the Gulf of Oman. So, majority of the oil producing regions in the area, you will find that from the region of Kuwait, Iraq, Bahrain, Qatar, everywhere, the Saudis, they basically transport oil through the region of Persian Gulf that crosses the Strait of Hormuz. Now, which are the countries which are separated by Strait of Hormuz? So you have Oman and you have Iran. Okay, this is an important point because many of the times we know that it connects Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. But which are the countries which are separated? It is Oman here. This particular enclave is or exclave is referred to as or is under Oman. And here you have Iran. Okay. Now, here you also have certain islands in between which are under dispute with UAE. So, you have the disputed islands which are claimed by UAE, and that is the dispute between Iran and UAE. So, you have Abu Musa, Lesser Tun, and Greater Tunba Island, which are claimed by both UAE as well as Iran. So, this is where you have the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. Now, immediately around Strait of Hormuz, you have an important port city in the region or the port region of Iran, and that is your Bandar Abbas port. Bandar Abbas port. Okay. Bandar in itself meaning the presence of a port. Okay. Then, after that, the Great Bitter Lake. Now, where is Great Bitter Lake situated? Great Bitter Lake is a part of the water body which connects the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, that is the Suez Canal. So, before the digging up and construction of the Suez Canal, it was a large arid basin, right? Having very dry conditions. Now, after digging up of the Suez Canal, that is where you have the Great Bitter Lake. So, it is an expansive saline lake forming a part of the Suez Canal in the region of. Okay, the Suez Canal links the Great Bitter Lake with the Small Bitter Lake, the Mediterranean, and the Red Sea. So that is the entire connectivity. So here you find the presence of Great Bitter Lake, this region. Okay, to the southern part. So eventually it drains and it connects which portion? Mediterranean with the region of Gulf of Suez. Gulf of Suez then opens up into the region of Red Sea. Okay, so that is the Gulf of Suez. You have two gulfs in this region. One is Gulf of Suez, another is the Gulf of Aqaba or the Gulf of Eilat, which are separated by the Sinai Peninsula. That map also we will take a look into it shortly within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Now, situated approximately in the midpoint of Suez Canal, as you would have seen, total surface area covers almost 24% of the canal system, length around 15 miles. The salinity varies with the depth and also the flow of water in the canal. That also influences the salinity. Then, another water body which was in news is the region of Baltic Sea. Now, Baltic Sea, it is again in strategic news for the past year. Why? Because when you take a look at the geopolitical situation, Russia and the Russian Navy is exerting a substantial amount of influence from the region of Baltic Sea. So if you take a look at the Baltic Sea, basically it has got multiple gulfs also. Okay, so that is why Baltic Sea is considered also or also sometimes referred to as the Sea of Gulfs. You have multiple different gulfs, starting with the Gulf of Bothnia to the north. Okay, then you have Gulf of Finland, on the coast of which you have the capital region of Helsinki. Then you have the Gulf of Riga, and then you have the Gulf of Gdansk, right? So you have four gulfs which are on the sides of Baltic Sea. Now, there are multiple different countries which surround the Baltic nation or the Baltic Sea. Those are the Baltic nations. But chiefly, the name Baltic state is something which is associated with three countries. That is Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. These are the three countries with which the name Baltic state is associated. However, you have multiple different countries. You have Finland, Sweden, all of them are connected and are bordering. Even Russia is connected with Baltic Sea. Now, here, the city of St. Petersburg, the important and the strategic city of St. Petersburg, again lies on the coastline of Gulf of Finland. Okay. Now, here you will find that you have the Karragutta Strait, which connects it to the Karragutta Bay, and thereafter the Skagerrak Strait, which connects it to the north. So you have two straits here, which eventually connects the Baltic to the region of North Sea. Baltic is also considered to be one of the marginal seas of the Atlantic Ocean. Kara Sea, marginal sea of the Arctic Ocean. Baltic Sea, considered to be the marginal sea of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Now, here, often called world's largest brackish inland water body. Now, here you will find the neighboring countries: Sweden, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Denmark, and Russia. Most of them you will be able to guess. Germany is a point that you should take a look in. Okay. Now, then you have the Atacama Desert, which was in news owing to the extreme extraction of lithium reserves from the salt pans in the region of Atacama as well. So, where is Atacama Desert situated? Atacama Desert is situated in the western part of the Andean Cordilleras and the western part of South America continent. So, here you will observe that this is a very dry region, one of the driest deserts across the world with the rainfall, and it is said that this has been dry despite the multiple different types of plate tectonic movement, etc., which have been observed. This has remained dry since the time of Pangea and the breakout of Pangea itself. Now, this Atacama Desert is a desert partly because of the presence of the cold ocean currents. Okay, and which is the name of the cold ocean current here? You have the Peru current, or what is also the Humboldt current. Peru current or the Humboldt current. Now, this Peru current or the Humboldt current, what it does, it basically provides a colder air layer immediately above the region of the water body in that area. It creates a temperature inversion. So that is why you don't have much of a rainfall occurring in that location as well. Okay, so that is the region of Atacama Desert, predominantly in which particular country? Predominantly in the region of Chile, in the country of Chile. Okay. Now, trick to remember: equator passing through South. See, you don't need to remember equator passes through which countries, Tropic of Cancer passes through which countries. Those kind of questions typically are not asked. Last year, you had a question about some random lakes, which was asked that which lies on Tropic of Capricorn. So that is why UPSC is not going to ask you the question associated with these generally, in general. So try to avoid that. But if you can remember this, fair enough. Okay. Now, Atacama Desert, cool and a region of northern Chile, 600 to 700 miles north to south. Now, here it is basically between the south bend of the Loa River and the mountains separating the drainage basins of the southern river as well. It extends into the bordering region of Peru and even Bolivia. In the region of Bolivia, close to the Atacama, you have another high altitude drier area as well, and that is the region of Altiplano. Altiplano is also situated closer to Atacama. Altiplano. Okay, and then further east that you go, you will find the presence of large saltwater lakes where lithium extraction is done in very large amounts, in very large quantums. So that is the region of Salar de Uyuni saltwater lake, Salar de Uyuni, one of the larger saltwater lakes across the world, known for the lithium extraction. Lithium extracts. Okay. Now, this is the also the region that is Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. They also famously form what is known as the lithium triangle. Okay, so that is where you can remember it by ABC if you want: Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. That is where you have the lithium triangle. Large amount of lithium reserves are to be found in that area. Lithium triangle. Salar de Uyuni, known for saltwater lake, saltwater, lithium reserves. Okay, now after that, basically, the reason why it is a desert: dry subsidence in the subtropical high pressure zone in the South Pacific, and along the coast, the aridity is created by the old Peru current or the Humboldt current. Then Gulf of Aylat. Gulf of Aylat, or this is also what is known as the Gulf of Aqaba. Now, this is basically present in the region of the Sinai Peninsula. So, here, if you observe the Sinai Peninsula, now you will observe there are two water bodies which eventually merge into the Red Sea. Which are those water bodies? You have Gulf of Suez to the west, and you have the Gulf of Aqaba. This is what is known as the Gulf of Eilat. So Gulf of Aqaba or Gulf of Eilat is situated to the eastern part of the Sinai Peninsula. Now, this Sinai Peninsula has also been the ground or the land where multiple different conflicts between Israel, Egypt have already taken place in the past. And this is where in the region of the Sinai Peninsula, in the southern part of Sinai Peninsula, is where you have the resort town of Sharm el Sheikh. Now, Sharm el Sheikh, you would be aware in terms of even the Conference of Parties meeting which happened, right? And you had the COP27, which happened at Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt. Then, prior to that, even the Indo-Pak summit meeting happened at Sharm el Sheikh. So, Sharm el Sheikh is again one of the important regions which always remain in. Okay. Then, so here, why it was in news? Because the study of the corals have indicated that in the region of Gulf of Eilat, you had a 3,000 year growth shutdown for the corals. Why? Because of the global cooling phenomena. That is why you basically had the shutdown in the growth of the coral. Now, northern extension of the Red Sea, east of Sinai Peninsula, the countries which border the region of Gulf of Eilat or Gulf of Aqaba, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Jordan, you have Israel, and you have, okay, these are the various different countries which surround the Gulf of Eilat or Gulf of Aqaba. Okay, now from southern end of the Dead Sea transform fault. This is a transform fault. On one end, you have the Arabian plate. Okay, you have the minor Arabian plate. One boundary of the Arabian plate lies in the region around Gujarat. Okay, now then you have Mount Etna. Mount Etna is in news owing to the eruption and the plumes of ash which was released from there. So this is where in the region of Sicily is where you have Mount Etna. Now, here, take a look at the region of Sicily, by the way. So, here, Sicily is in the southern coastal area of and is an island in the region to the south of Italy and the Italian coast. Here, this is separated by a narrow water body, which is a strait, and that is your Strait of Messina. Strait of Messina separates Italy from Sicily, Italian peninsula from, okay. Then the water bodies surrounding the region, you have Ionian Sea, then you have Tyrrhenian Sea. Yeah. Okay. So Rome overlooks the region of Tyrrhenian Sea and Mediterranean Sea, obviously to the south. To the west, to the east of the Italian peninsula, you have the water body that is the Adriatic Sea. Okay, so you have Tyrrhenian Sea, Adriatic Sea, Ionian Sea, and also the Strait of Messina. So, Strait of Messina connects which two water bodies? It does connect the Tyrrhenian Sea with the Ionian Sea. Now, Mount Etna on the eastern coast of Sicily is the highest Mediterranean island mountain and the most active stratovolcano across the world. Now, it has been erupting, the region has been erupting for almost 5 lakh years. Then, the country which has remained in news for major part of 2025 is the country of Iran. Now, Iran has been in news owing to the attacks as well. You had the Israeli attack on Iran. You also had the case of the US bombings on Iran. Now, when you consider the region of Iran, important to note its physiography here. Now, it has got one of the driest deserts of the world as well. That is the region of Dast-e-Lut. Dast-e-Lut is one of the drier deserts, of very, very dry, availability of even oasis and some water is not present. Dast-e-Kavir is also a very dried up area in the region of Iran. Now, here you have some of the moderate climatic conditions, cooler climatic conditions in the mountainous areas. So, you have the Elburz Mountain in the northern part, and you have the Zagros Mountain in the southern part. Right now, it is in these hilly and mountainous areas that Iran produces one of the costliest spice in the world, and that is the saffron cultivation and the saffron production. Iran is the largest producer of saffron in the world. Now, here you will find the Bandar Abbas port. Okay, that is where you have this is the largest port in the region of Iran, and we have just seen the Strait of Hormuz as well. So here, when we talk about Iran, so attacks were carried out in various different areas. So that is why it was. So a country of plateaus and mountains, most of the land being above 1400 or 1500 feet out there. Now, basically, Elburz Mountain in the north and Zagros Mountain in the western and the southern borders. Now, the plateau of Iran is present in rest of the region. Dasht-e-Kavir is a sandstone and salty desert plateau. And whereas when we talk about the temperature rises to the extremity in the summer. So Dasht-e-Kavir and Dasht-e-Lut oftentimes will indicate highest temperature, sometimes crossing around 53, 54, even 55 degrees Celsius, which makes it one of the hottest regions of the planet Earth, especially during the case of summer season. Okay. Then you have Cyprus. Now, Cyprus was in news owing to the fact that you have the Indian Prime Minister who visited Cyprus immediately after the culmination of Operation Sindoor. And it was a kind of a strategic message sent to Turkey as well. Because when you talk about Cyprus, part of Cyprus is claimed by Turkey, right? And part of that other part of Cyprus claims independence. So, if you talk about the region of Cyprus, this is the location of Cyprus. Okay, this is location of Cyprus. It is in the region of the Mediterranean Sea. Now here you will observe basically the eastern part. Eastern part is the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, and the remaining is the region of the Republic of Cyprus. Okay, so that is the case of Cyprus. Here in 1960, Cyprus became independent, and it became independent of which country? It became independent of Britain. Now, long-standing conflict did occur. Now, basically, invasion of the island did happen by the Turkish troops in 1974, and that is where partition of the island did happen, leading to the establishment of the de facto Turkish Cypriot state. That is what you find as the case of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Only Turkey does recognize this portion of Cyprus. Then Kamchatka Peninsula has been in news for the year 2024 as well as for the year 2025. So in Kamchatka Peninsula, why it has been in news? Owing to massive earthquakes which have occurred to the eastern part of Kamchatka Peninsula. Prior to that, even the volcanic eruption in the region of Shivaluch. So Shivaluch is an important area, and mind you, this Kamchatka Peninsula also makes its way into the UNESCO heritage site because of the unique kind of biodiversity to be found in the volcanic region. Okay, that is very unique to this area. So this is your Kamchatka Peninsula. Now, again, this has been one of the forefronts of the Cold War era in the case of the battlefield, because this was the zone of conflict where oftentimes the Soviet Navy and the American Navy would clash near the Kamchatka Peninsula. Now, it is here that you have the convergence of plate. Subduction of a plate also tends to happen. Now, in this region, you have the water body, that is the Sea of Okhotsk. You also have the Sakhalin region here, which is very, very rich in oil reserves, where India has also invested. So here you will find that you have the North American plate and you also have the Okhotsk plate. The Okhotsk plate located on the eastern side of Asia, that is, this is the region of the Okhotsk plate. Okay. If you can take a look into it, this is the region of the Okhotsk plate. This is where you have the Pacific plate. And this is where the zone of convergence or the subduction is actually happening. Okay. Now, here basically you will observe that primarily the eastern side of Asia, that is where it is present underwater, and also the Kamchatka Peninsula, Sakhalin Island, and northern half of Japan are also included in this Okhotsk plate itself. Now, this is because it is a zone of convergence, so that is why you have very massive volcanic eruptions which keep on occurring in this particular area. Okay, now here, if you take a look at the volcanic eruptions, many of the volcanic eruptions have occurred even in the region of Shivaluch. You observe the region of Shivaluch or Shivaluch. This is where a lot of eruptions have been happening in this area. To the south of Kamchatka Peninsula, you'll find the presence of Kuril Islands. Now, this Kuril Island has also been under conflict between Russia and Japan. So that is where Kuril Islands also become important for your overall news, right? So Shivaluch, also spelled as Shivaluch, is a region which has at least 60 large eruptions in the past 10,000 years. There is a 9-kilometer wide caldera which is also present in the region of Shivaluch. Now, the volcanoes of Kamchatka, now they have, because the Pacific plate has been subducting for such a long time now, for millions of years now, that is why it has been experiencing frequent volcanicity. Now, wide variety of different types of volcanoes you will observe. Now, this basically has created a unique species diversity in the region as well. And when we say species diversity, salmonoid fish, right, sea otter, brown bear, and stellar sea eagle are some of the unique species that you find to be present in the region of Kamchatka Peninsula. This is the reason. Now, in general, around the areas of volcanism, we do not expect any kind of biodiversity to be present because there is emergence of lava. It is very hot. You have fumes of sulfur, carbon dioxide. All of them are present. So that is why it is considered to be non conducive for biodiversity. But upon studying the region of Kamchatka, it has come to our understanding that very soon after the lava cools down, the region can then be utilized. You have some unique kind of butterflies also, and the water body in that area has also got unique kind of biodiversity. Okay. Now, then after that, the country of Ghana. Now, why? Basically, again, you had the case of the first visit to the West African nation by an Indian premier in almost 3 decades. So that is why India has basically agreed for a host of different agreements to boost the defense ties, food security, etc. Now, for your prelims, this is also important. What are the economic ties in question? What are the minerals to be found in that area? That can also be asked. Now, this is the region of Ghana. Capital of Nigeria, by the way, is Lagos. Okay, so don't get confused by that. It is Lagos. Now, here, this is the region of Ghana with the capital at Accra. Okay, now, here, basically, you will observe the presence of the water body that is Bight of Benin. Bight of Benin. Okay. Now here you will find that this is has a larger lake, that is Lake Volta. Lake Volta. Okay. Lake Volta was also asked in the prelims examination. Okay. So that is where you have Lake Volta, and you have two water bodies, that is Black Volta, and that is the rivers which meet into Lake Volta. Okay. So here, okay, I'll use the red color in the case of the maps. So this is where you basically have Volta. Lake Volta is present here. You have the white Volta and the black Volta, which meet to create the larger Lake Volta. So there is a seasonal variation which occurs. Rishabh, you are correct. Right. Okay. Tell me, all of you, this is a question for you. This was a trick question. So tell me, what is the capital of Nigeria? Let me know in the comment section. What is the capital of Nigeria? I've told you once it was Abuja, and in the one case, I've told you Lagos. So do tell me whether we know this or not. Okay. So Volta has got seasonal variation in terms of the water content is present. Okay, which is present here. Now, depending upon the flow in white Volta and black Volta, that is where the water body in Lake Volta varies. Now, here you have the coastal plains, the Ashanti uplands, the Volta basin. Now, Ashanti upland is again where you will find substantial amount of mineral deposits. Now, it is situated on the Gulf of Guinea. Okay. Now, here you also have to understand there is something known as Bight of Benin. Bight of Benin is a water body, yeah, to the north of Gulf of Guinea. Gulf of Guinea is also the marginal sea of the region of Atlantic Ocean. Okay, and Bight of Benin is situated also to the north. What is Bight? Bight is also a marginal sea which is present. It is present to the south of Benin. That is why you have Bight of Benin. Okay. Now, it shares its border with Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast to the west, Burkina Faso to the north, and Togo, the region of the east. Now, when you consider this region of Ghana, it is one of the largest producers of cocoa in the world, second largest producer of cocoa, contributing close to around 10 to 11% of the cocoa production across the world, immediately after the Ivory Coast. Now, it is the sixth largest gold producer in the world, right? It is the largest gold producer amongst the largest gold producer in Africa, and bauxite from which you extract aluminium. So, large amount of bauxite reserves are also to be found from the region of Ghana. Now, this is the question that you can take a look into. Which of the following statements about Ghana is or are correct? Ghana shares its western border with Côte d'Ivoire and northern border with Togo. It is the largest gold producer in Africa and the world's second largest producer of cocoa. Lake Volta is the largest man-made lake in Africa in terms of surface area. Take a look into it again. Okay, so when we talk about the bordering regions, what are the bordering regions? Cote d'Ivoire is present here. Then you have Burkina Faso to the north and Togo to the region of east. So here it basically shares its western border with Cote d'Ivoire and northern border with Togo. Is that correct? No, it becomes incorrect. Right? Then it is the largest gold producer in Africa and world's second largest producer of cocoa. Is that correct? That is going to be correct. Then the third, Lake Volta is the largest man-made lake in Africa in terms of surface area. That also correct, because you only have one option, 2 and 3, right? So that is why you have 2 and 3. Right. I hope everybody is able to solve this practice question. Then Trinidad and Tobago was in news. Now, here, rather than only looking at the region and the location of Trinidad and Tobago, I also want you to take a look at the nearby water body that is like Gulf of Paria. So, Trinidad and Tobago, island country in the southwestern portion of West Indies. This is where you have the region of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay. Now, two main islands, Trinidad and Tobago, and several smaller islands are present in the region. So here you will observe you have Tobago, and this is the region of Trinidad. Okay. Now here you'll find the presence of the water body that is Gulf of Paria. So basically, you have the connection with the Caribbean Sea. Caribbean Sea gets connected with the Gulf of Paria by a strait that is known as the Dragon's Mouth. And Dragon's Mouth, it is basically known for very rocky outcrops in the sea, which makes it a nightmare for shipping activities. Now, that is where on the other side of the coast is the country of Venezuela. Okay. Then you have Gulf of Paria again being connected to the region of Atlantic through Serpent's Mouth. So Dragon's Mouth and Serpent's Mouth are the exit points of the water body that is Gulf of Paria, which is in the region of Trinidad Islands. Tobago Island to the north, Trinidad Island to the south. So here, physiographically, it simply is an extension of the South American region. Now, some of the unique feature. This is very substantial oil-bearing belt. Now, that is where even Venezuela has got a lot of oil. So that is a continuation of that, right? So here you will observe west into the Gulf of Paria and east into the Atlantic Ocean. Now here you will find that gas and water seepages, they do happen from the mud volcano as well. And the best known of what is known as the Devil's Woodyard. The southwestern of the part of the island where you have the pitch lake, that is where you have the asphalt deposit. Asphalt, crude oil, tar, etc. They are amongst the heavier crude oil. Mind you, Venezuela, which has got the largest crude oil deposit, all of you would have seen that in the news recently. Venezuela has got the largest crude oil deposit. It is the heavier crude which is present in Venezuela. So here also you have the heavier variety of crude oil which is present, which cannot be refined easily from the various refiners. For example, in India, only the refinery that we have in Jamnagar that has the capability to refine the heavier crude oil, which you find in the region around Trinidad, Tobago, and even in the region of Venezuela. Okay. Now, Argentina. Now, India has been looking to Argentina, towards Argentina, in order to bolster the ties and also to gain substantially in terms of the minerals and the overall mineral exchanges, because Argentina has got substantial reserves of the critical minerals as well. Okay, along with some of the rare earth elements, critical minerals are also present in large quantum in Argentina. Now, Argentina is the second largest country in South America after Brazil. Now, it shares its border with which country? To the west, you have Chile. To the east, you'll find the region of Uruguay, right? Then you have Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia to the north. Now, if you take a look at the physiographic division of Argentina, now that is where you'll find the temperate grassland in the form of pampas. Okay. Then you have the marshy area, which also contains substantial dense forest. That is the region of Gran Chaco, which is present to the north. To the south, you have the Patagonian Peninsula and the Patagonian Plateau. That is present to the southern part of Argentina. Now, here you will find one of the larger estuaries of the South American region, that is Rio de la Plata. Rio de la Plata is a very large estuary. Now, here multiple rivers. You have Uruguay, Paraguay, all of them. Parana, they drain into Rio de la Plata. Very substantially rich in biodiversity. Large amount of population is concentrated in that area. Now, here you have two capital cities to the bordering region of Rio de la Plata. One is Buenos Aires, that is the capital of Argentina. And then you have Montevideo, which is the capital of Uruguay. Okay, so here to the south, you will observe immediately to the south, you have the Chilean region. Now, this portion, you have the Strait of Magellan. To the south of Strait of Magellan, you have the Drake's Passage, which is considered to be very, very difficult in order to navigate because of the very strong westerlies and large waves which are created in that area. Then you have the Falkland Island here, with which Argentina frequently has disputes with UK about the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands. Okay, so that is the case of the region of Argentina. Now it holds world's third largest reserves of lithium. Substantial amount of copper is also present. In fact, in this region and the Katanga Plateau in Africa, in the south central portion of Africa, these are some of the largest copper reserves anywhere to be found across the world. Now, boron, it is the second largest producer, Argentina after Turkey. Oil and natural gas, now you have the Muerta shale formation, one of the biggest shale oil and gas fields. Largest exporter of soybean oil and the soybean. Now, why this is important for you is understand the background. So right now US is basically offering trade deals to everyone now, and it is blackmailing the countries. So US had even blackmailed China to import more soybean from US, just like it is right now pressurizing India to import more soybean from US again. Now, the other alternative in the global market other than US is Argentina. That is where now Argentina has become one of the major exporters of soybean oil and soybean meal to China. And India is also looking at the same. Now, why do you need soybean oil? For various cooking purposes, for manufacturing, food processing industry, soybean oil is used. Soybean meal, however, is used typically in your poultry industry. That is where, for the various different poultry feed, soybean meal is considered to be very nutritious and protein rich. Okay. Now, here the practice question. Consider the following statements regarding Argentina. It is the second largest country in South America and shares borders with Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay, Brazil, and Uruguay. It holds the world's third largest lithium reserves and is the largest exporter of soybean oil. And what do you think is the answer? In this, the first statement is correct. The second statement regarding the minerals, that is also correct. Third largest lithium reserves and the largest exporter of soybean. So the correct answer is okay. Now, then Namibia is also in news. Now, Namibia, if you take a look at the unique topography of this, here also on the western coast of Namibia, you will find the presence of a desert. And why is that? Because here again, just like the case of the Atacama Desert, you have the cold ocean current, and that cold ocean current is which one? The Benguela current. Benguela current. To the east of Namibia, you basically have the Kalahari Desert, right? And the western coast, you have the Namib Desert. Now, here is where you will find the Skeleton Coast Park. Lot of shipwrecks and disasters used to happen in these dried areas as well. Okay, so it is in terms of minerals, fourth largest uranium producer globally. That is Namibia, right? Now, ranks amongst the top global producers of gem quality diamonds, which can be crafted into high carats of diamond. 2% of the global gem diamond output. Notable quantities of copper, lead, gold, fluorspar, silver, tin, all of them you will find there. Now, the zinc mine is famous in this area. And because this region around the Kalahari, the Katanga, that is where you will find these are older cratonic structures. So, zinc, copper, gold, they are also to be found in larger quantums. So, consider the following statements. Namibia is globally recognized as the fourth largest uranium producer, ranks amongst the top global producers of gem quality diamonds. It is home to the Scorpion zinc mine, which is counted among the 10 largest zinc mines in the world. Which of them are correct? Ashish, soybean meal. Meal is different. Okay. Right. So here you basically have D. That is 1, 2, and 3. Okay. All of them are correct. Now, Brazil hosted the Conference of Parties for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So that is where it was held in Belém on the coastal area of Amazon, right? So that is where you have the region of Belém, and that is why it was in news. Now, Brazil is one of those countries in the region of South America which borders almost all the countries of South America, barring two, that is Chile and Ecuador. Right? Other than Chile and Ecuador, it is a neighbor to all the countries. Okay? Now, right, it is at the mouth of Amazon. Here you have the Amazon River. To the north, you have the Guyana Highlands. To the south, you have the Pantanal. Now, Pantanal, one of the freshwater wetland ecosystem, that is the region of Pantanal. Okay, covers the western part of Brazil, extends into even Bolivia and Paraguay in the neighboring region. Now, this is where you have the Brazilian highlands, which was asked last year in the prelims examination in the portion of geomorphology, that is the continental drift theory. So, that is where it was asked in the examination, right? Now, here, when you consider the Amazon River, so this Amazon River is the largest river in the area of Brazil and even in South America. Now, here you have some of the large tropical grasslands as well. The tropical grassland in the region is known as Campos. Campos is your tropical grassland. Tropical grassland. Okay, so that is what you will find to be present here. Now, it is very rich in rare earth elements like niobium, tantalum. So, it is the largest producer of niobium in the world, second largest producer of tantalum, second largest exporter of iron ore, and one of the leading oil producers, but not such a great amount of oil, considering that you have Venezuela sitting right next to it. Sugarcane, largest producer worldwide. It is here with sugarcane that basically, with the case of India and Brazil, they oftentimes they trade their positions in terms of the larger production of sugarcane. Coffee, largest producer worldwide. Sugarcane, largest producer worldwide. Soybean, second largest producer globally. Argentina was one of the largest exporters. Brazil is the amongst the largest producers. Third largest producer of maize. Oranges, largest producer of orange. Third largest producer of bananas behind India and China. So this that is why, in terms of agriculture, in terms of natural resources, it is very, very rich. Okay. Now, take a look at the question. So, Brazil shares a border with every South American country except Chile and Ecuador. The Pantanal, one of the world's largest freshwater wetland ecosystems, covers parts of western Brazil and extends into the country. World's largest producer of niobium and sugarcane, and the second largest producer of soybean across the world globally. So, which of the following statements is or are correct? This is also an easy question. You should not find it very difficult. So, in this again, it will be D. All of them are basically correct. Then we come to a Pacific island, a Pacific country which was in news and which has been in news. That is the country of Tuvalu. Now, Tuvalu is sinking due to the sea level rise. Tuvalu is a region which is going to get submerged in the future. So all the areas around, or basically, it is a very small region. So all the people in Tuvalu, they are going for mass migration, and it is one of the world's first planned mass migrations. So you have a deal between Tuvalu and Australia and according to that deal, people from Tuvalu will be rehabilitated in Australia, and you have phased mass migration. So that is where you have the entire country which is shifting to Australia, and a planned mass migration is underway. So, where is Tuvalu? So, if you take a look into the region of the Pacific, southeastern Pacific to be southwestern Pacific to be more precise, this is where you'll find the presence of Tuvalu. Now, it is again here some of the important other islands. You have Solomon Islands here, Vanuatu. Now, these are the areas which are very rich in coral reserves, substantial amount of coral reserves and the coral reefs as well. Okay. So here, the text is something that is available and that will be available to you. You can download the PDF and you can take a look at the text right now. Kindly focus only on the portion of the maps. Okay. Now, one of the smallest nations of the world, Tuvalu is a collection of small islands and atolls, much of the coral reefs. It has got no major rivers, right? It gained again independence from United Kingdom in 1970. Now, this is important. That is the Falapili Union Treaty. The Falapili Union Treaty with Australia will grant 280 Tuvaluans permanent residency annually, allowing them to relocate. Every year, 280 people has got a small population of around a few thousands. So that is why you have planned migration of around 280 annually. It ensures access to healthcare, education, housing, and even employment in Australia. Now, here the practice question. It is a Polynesian nation, right? Take a look at the practice question. Please remember the name of the treaty. The treaty name becomes important, not only the location of Tuvalu, but the Falapili Union Treaty, that also becomes important. Okay? Now, then you have Philippines. Philippines has been in news due to the conflict with China in the region of South China Sea, and also increased collaboration, defense ties, defense exports with India. So that is where Philippines has basically been in news. Now, Philippines, when you take a look into it, this is also geographically very important area, because to the east of Philippines, you have the zone of convergence of the Pacific Ocean. So to the east of Philippines, you will find the presence of the very deep Mariana Trench to be present in the region here around the Philippine Sea. Okay. Then here is the capital city of Manila. This is the capital city of Manila here. Okay. Now here you will find the region of Mindanao province, which is oftentimes most devastatingly impacted by the typhoons which are created in the region. Now, one of the very high volume and high frequency tourist destination of Palawan is also to be found here. So, what are the water bodies around it? So, you basically will find Tulu Sea in this region, Celebes Sea, right? Pacific Ocean, Philippine Sea, and the South China Sea. Again, Tulu Sea and Celebes Sea to the south, right? Philippine Sea to the east, and South China Sea the west. Okay. Now, here you will find the presence of Mount Pinatubo. Mount Pinatubo, if you consider, it is one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in the 20th century which has occurred. Most massive volcanic eruptions have occurred in the region here, that is Mount Pinatubo, where the plumes of ash, it occurred in 1991, where the plumes of ash was sent even into the region of mesosphere. So that is where Mount Pinatubo becomes important. Okay. Now, positioned in the western edge of the Pacific in the Ring of Fire, it is the second largest archipelago in the world. second largest archipelago. Now, South China Sea to the north and to the west, then Philippine Sea to the east, then you have Celebes Sea to the south, Celebes Sea to the south, and Sulu Sea, the region of southwest. Now it shares maritime border because it is an archipelago, it won't share land border. It shares its maritime border, Indonesia, China, Japan, Palau, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan is with which it shares the border. So you observe this is the region of Philippines. This is the area of Philippines. Here you have the region of the South China Sea. Here you have the disputed region of the Paracel and the Spratly Islands, which are oftentimes asked in the examination as well. This is where the Sulu Sea and the Celebes Sea are situated. Okay, so oil-rich region of Brunei is also present to the south of Philippines and Taiwan to the north. And oftentimes the tussle, the dispute that happen, they happen in this region. Okay. Now you can take a look at the practice question as well and solve the practice question. Then Algeria was basically in news owing to the tie or the defense ties which were sought to be deepened. Now, Algeria is an important country in the region of North Africa, which has substantial amount of oil reserves as now, barring the coastal area, Algeria, if you will observe, is also having large amount of desert reach in its physiography, very large extent of the desert reach. So, if you consider the region of the rest of Algeria, mostly it is under desert. It is the coastal area where you have the capital city of Algiers, and that is where majority of the population does stay. Now, if you consider the region of Algeria, it has got the presence of multiple ergs. Okay, ergs and hamadas, some of the features in the desert area you will come across. So you will find Grand Erg Occidental and Grand Erg Oriental. This is also what is referred to as the sand sea due to the presence of large amount of sand dunes and the sand deposits. Now here to the region of the east, you will find Tunisia, again mineral rich, oil rich region. Libya, again oil rich region. Niger is something that we had just studied about the region of Niger. Mali, Mauritania, then you basically have Morocco. Yeah. Okay. So that is the bordering region of Algeria. Okay. Now, the northernmost region here, you will find the presence of mountains, that is the Atlas Mountain. Atlas Mountain is also a fold mountain which is created due to the continental oceanic convergence. So that is where you have the fold mountain in the form of Atlas range. Northernmost is also region is also referred to as the Tell region. And this is one of the larger countries in Africa. So it is a vast country, the largest in Africa and 10th largest the world. Okay. Now, the northern region, because of the maritime influence, has got a kind of a moderating climate. Now, southern region almost entirely consisted of deserts. So basically, you have the great eastern and the great western ergs, which rise on an average to 400 to 600 meters. Okay. Now, what are ergs basically? It is an area of large accumulation of sand. Unlike a sand dune, which is much smaller in terms of its extent, ergs are much larger. Now they are actively areas of or areas of active shifting dunes, fossilized dunes, or extensive sand sheets. Now, oil reserves are to be found in northeastern part of Algeria near the bordering region of Tunisia. Major fields of natural gas are exploited in Algeria. Deposits of natural gas were first found at the Hassier Mel in 1956. Now, coal and bituminous coal fields are also to be found in the region of Bishar. Deposits of oil shale have also been found. So, fossil fuels are typically the energy resources of Algeria. Amongst the fossil fuels, you basically have around the region. So, easy way to remember Libya, Tunisia, they are rich in oil reserves. So northeastern part is where you will find the oil reserves. Peshawar region, that is where you will find the presence of bituminous coal. Now, oil for the first time was extracted or found in which region? Hasiyar Mel in 19. Okay. Northern region of Algeria is also what is referred to as the Tell region. So that is why the northern slope of Atlas is also what is referred to as the Tell Atlas. Now, which of the following statements about Algeria's geography and resources are correct? Algeria is the largest country in the world, largest country in Africa, and the 10th largest in the world. The northern region, known as the Tell, is characterized by coastal plains, the Atlas Mountains, and influenced by the Mediterranean Sea. Southern Saharan region, almost entirely a desert, conceals rich minerals, most importantly petroleum and natural gas. Major coal reserves are found at Hasiyar Mel, which is also where natural gas deposits are found. So, which of them are correct? So, first of all, if you take a look at the first statement is correct, right? Now, how many of you feel the answer is D here? Now, major coal deposits were found in the Pechar region, not in Hasiyar Mel. Hasiyar Mel is where you have natural gas and oil, which is to be found. Okay, so fourth automatically becomes incorrect. So eliminate the options where 4 is given. The second, northern region known as Tell is characterized by coastal plains and Atlas Mountains, influenced by the Mediterranean Sea. The reserves are onshore. Most of the reserves are onshore. Some of the reserves are also to be found offshore, but here majority of them are on. Southern Saharan region, almost entirely desert, conceals rich. Now, the southern desert area is not so much in oil, petroleum, and natural gas. It is mostly in the northeast. Correct answer is going to be A. Okay. Now, Japan. Now, owing to the Prime Minister's visit to Japan, that is why Japan is also a country that you have to take a look into, and it is in news. So, when you consider the region of Japan, so it is an island region overall. And here you have major areas and classification of Japan. You have the Honshu region, you have the Hokkaido region, you have the Shikoku region, and you have the Kyushu region. These are the four overall classifications and the parts of Japan. Northernmost Hokkaido, then you have Honshu, then you have Shikoku, and then you have Kyushu. Now, here to the south, you have the Ryukyu Islands. To the north, remember the Sea of Okhotsk and the Kuril Islands. We discussed the Kuril Islands in the case of Kamchatka Peninsula to the south of Kamchatka Peninsula. So that is to the north of Japan. Here you have Mount Fuji, again known for the volcanic eruption. Then the Kyoto, very famous for various different conventions and also for the climate pact, and the capital city at Tokyo. So here, maritime border with Russia, China and South Korea to the west, and Taiwan to the south. Okay. Now, the main islands from north to south: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. These are your four major islands. Hokkaido and Honshu are the major ones. Shikoku and Kyushu, they are the minor islands. Okay. Now, Sea of Japan to the west, East China Sea to the southwestern area, Pacific Ocean to the east. 80% of the land is mountainous, created due to the subduction of the plates in that area. Mineral reserves are not very high. Now, coal, iron ore, zinc, lead, copper, gold, sulfur, they are to be found, but they are not in very large quantums. Large deposits of limestone is present because many areas have been uplifted above water. That is where you will find limestone. Now, oil and gas bearing belt extends from northern Honshu into the Sea of Japan, eventually the area of Hokkaido. So, Hokkaido Honshu region in the north is where you can extract oil. Sea of Galilee. Now, Sea of Galilee was in news. Why? Because the water here turned red. Now, it was found out that it is because of the growth of the unique kind of algal species which makes the water reddish in appearance. So, this is where the Sea of Galilee is situated. Okay. It is a large freshwater lake in the northeastern part of Israel. Now, this is very vital for providing drinking water supply in the towns nearby and in the regions nearby. And it is situated where? In the Jordan Rift Valley. You have a Rift Valley in the region of Jordan. So that is where you will find the presence of Sea of Galilee. That is why it is one of the lowest freshwater lakes in the river, in the lake, and fed mainly by the Jordan River, bordered by the lower Galilee Hills and the Golan Heights. Uh, Okay. Now, the reason that it turned red was because of the algal bloom. Now, the algal bloom, that is the Botryococcus brownie, belongs to the chlorophyta group and produces the carotenoid pigments which impart a reddish color. Now, as the temperature of the ocean rises, it creates perfect conditions for the algae to bloom. Now, the heat from the sun, nutrient concentration, like phosphorus, nitrogen, just like eutrophication, that is where the algal bloom has happened. However, it has been tested and has been found slightly safer for drinking water purposes. Now, Dardanelles Strait was closed down this year by Turkey owing to the wildfires in the region. Now, where is Dardanelles Strait and which water bodies does it connect? So, when you consider basically the Dardanelles Strait, it is present here. This is where the Dardanelles Strait is present. It connects two water bodies, that is the Aegean Sea and the Sea of Marmara. If it is a fresh water, then why it is called as a sea? Because of the large extent. That is why it is referred to as. Okay. So the Dardanelles Strait does connect Aegean and the Sea of Marmara. Now here basically you will find two straits which are present. One to the north of Sea of Marmara, that is the Bosphorus Strait. So Bosphorus Strait will connect Black Sea, the Sea of Marmara, and Dardanelles Strait will connect Aegean Sea, the Sea of Marmara. This is where you have the Dardanelles Strait. Okay. Now, this is where you have the Sea of Marmara. Okay. Under the sovereignty of Turkey. It is a 65-mile long strait in northwestern part of Turkey, separates Europe and Asia. Now, the Black and the Mediterranean seas are effectively linked by the two water bodies. That is, you have the Bosphorus Strait in the north, and then you have Dardanelles Strait in the south. Now, here, during the World War One, that is where you had the very infamous or famous Battle of Gallipoli. That is where the Allied forces uh, experienced a substantial amount of setback. And you had one of the naval officers, which who was defamed, or it was his strategic decision which led to the defeat of the Allied forces in the Battle of Gallipoli here, and that was Winston Churchill. It is a different matter altogether. He emerged as a war hero in the Second World War, but in First World War, it was in the Dardanelles Strait where his fortunes were to be decided. Now, it makes it for a great significance to Turkey as it is a driver for the economic gain. Now, water in the Dardanelles Strait are rich in different fish that migrate between the Aegean and the Black Sea. Now, Venezuela is in news again, as was is the case throughout last year as well. Now, Venezuela, northern portion of South America, very vital nation in terms of mineral resources, largest one of the largest crude oil deposits in the world, the heavier grade of crude oil that is present in Venezuela. Now, here you will find the Andes Mountains have a starting point from here itself. The Andes Mountains, the longest mountain chain in the world, covering an extent of close to around 8,000 kilometers, that starts from this region. Now, here you will find the presence of the river basin, that is the Orinoco River Basin. Orinoco River Basin is separated from the Amazon River Basin by the Guyana Highlands. Now, here you will also find the presence of the, the highest waterfall in the world, that is the Angel Falls. That is the highest waterfall in the world. Here also, by the way, you will find the presence of lot of crude in the region around Lake Maracaibo. Lake Maracaibo that you observe here, this is also very rich in the presence of crude. Okay. Now, overall, you will observe the presence of tropical grasslands in this area. Tropical grassland, and that is named as Llanos. Llanos. Okay. That is also to be found in this region. Now, physical features overall, you have the Andean highlands, Llanos, which is the tropical grassland, Guyana highlands. That is where you have the Angel Falls, world's highest waterfall, is situated in the region of Angel Falls. Then you have the Maracaibo Basin in the northwest, extensive petroleum fields. And then you have the coastal ranges as well. So this is basically the region of Venezuela overall, mostly dominated by the river Orinoco. And as you can see, this Orinoco forms a very wide and fertile delta while it meets the region of the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Gulf of Paria that we studied in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, where you had the two straits, the Dragon's Mouth and the Serpent's Mouth, which provides the connectivity of Gulf of Paria to the region of the Caribbean Sea in the north and basically the Atlantic to the south. This is the river Orinoco. Okay. Now, the surrounding waters, Caribbean Sea, Atlantic Ocean, Lake Maracaibo, Gulf of Venezuela, and the Orinoco River system. These are some of the important water bodies overall. Okay. Now, then we come to some of the other regions. For example, the mineral resources. So, in the region of the Guyana Shield, it is where it is very rich in iron ore, bauxite, gold, diamonds, and nickel. And Maracaibo Basin, oil and natural gas. Now, which of the physical features in Venezuela is described as a vast grassland region known for cattle rearing and oil exploration? Let me know what is the correct answer in this. This should be easy, right? So you have two tropical grasslands and one temperate grassland in South America. Temperate grassland, Pampas. Tropical grassland, Llanos and Campos. So if you take a look at the map of South America, Llanos to the north, then you have the Guyana Highlands, then you have the region of Campos, then you have Gran Chaco, then you have Pampas, then you have the Patagonian Plateau or the Patagonian Peninsula. To the south of Patagonian Peninsula, you have a narrow strait, that is the Strait of Magellan, and after that, you have the water body that is known as Lake's Passage. So this is the north to south extent overall, the broader term. Gran Chaco is a forested region, is a swampy region rather, in the northern part of Argentina. So it is a swampy area where you will, in some portion, you will also find the presence of dense forest. In some areas, you will also find the presence of only grasses. Okay. Now, that is an area immediately in the Piedmont zone or the foothill region of the Andes. So, that is where you will have multiple smaller seasonal streams also depositing some of the water. That is why Gran Chaco, in some portion, becomes marshy and swampy. Then we come to the country of China. Now, China was in news owing to the SCO summit. Now, that is where China is a very large country, very important globally as well. Now, if you take a look at China, now the SCO summit was held where? It was held in Tianjin. Tianjin in the region of China. Okay. Now, if you look at the overall map, it is consisted of various mountain chains. You have the Tian Shan, the Kunlun Shan, you have the Taklamakan Desert here. Okay. Now, the Xinjiang region with the capital at Urumqi, Gobi Desert, which is shared with Mongolia. Then you have the Altun Shan Mountains. Then you have the various river systems draining into the region, and most of the population is settled in the eastern coastline. Now, it is the country which has got the peninsular region attached to it, that is the North Korea and the South Korea. South Korea is not attached to China, North Korea is. Okay, so this is the Tianjin region, and this is the area of the Dalian, very important port city, that is Dalian. Now, here you will find Yellow Sea, then eventually South China Sea. Now, Yellow Sea, known for the drainage area of the Yellow River, that is Huanghe. So, here you have the physical features that you can take a look into. Now, the mountainous area, Tibetan Plateau, the Kunlun Range, Himalayas, the Pamir North. Now, the major rivers overall, Yangtze. Now, it is the longest river, one of the longest rivers in Asia, that is Yangtze. Then you have the Huanghe or the Yellow River, the Pearl River, which is Xinjiang, and the Amur River, which forms the boundary between Russia and China. Here you will find that the Amur River shares to some extent the boundary between Russia and China. So it is also considered one of the important transboundary rivers. Again, if you revise and repeat it, look at the mountain ranges. Tian Shan, the north, Kunlun Shan, the south, separated by, you have the region of the desert, that is the Taklamakan Desert. Then to the east, you will find the Altun Shan, right? These are the major mountains, Himalayas, obviously, and the Tibetan region to the south. Okay, even in the case of the rivers, you will find Huanghe is to the north, Amur is to the northernmost. Amur River originating or coming from the region of Russia itself. So it is the northernmost. Then you have Huanghe, then you have, if you consider Yangtze, it is one of the largest rivers. Even Mekong, Brahmaputra, all of them, they drain through the region. Okay. Now, the surrounding water bodies, East China Sea, South China Sea, Yellow Sea. We have seen the presence of Yellow Sea. Then Bohai Sea. That is where you have the post port of Dalian and Tianjin. This is the region that is your Bohai Sea. This area that is known as Bohai Sea. Okay, and eastern boundary is the Pacific. It is the world's largest producer consumer of coal, and overall, if you will observe, largest one of the largest producers of gold, tungsten, rare earth elements, graphite, second largest producer of aluminium, fourth largest producer of iron ore, and it is an important member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The details of Shanghai Cooperation Organization you would have studied in your IR also. Otherwise, also it is something that you can take a look in. Okay. Now, here, which major river in China is specifically referred to in the sources as the cradle of the Chinese civilization? What is the cradle of the Chinese civilization? Do let me know. It is the Yellow River, right? That is Huanghe. That is the Yellow River. Okay. Now, then Qatar. Now, Qatar experienced attacks from Israel. Now, attacks happened in Doha, the capital city of Qatar. So, here, just taking a look at the location of Qatar. So, Qatar is situated in the region of the Persian Gulf. This is where you have the region of Qatar. Okay. So, Persian Gulf, here you have the Gulf of Bahrain, with the capital of Bahrain at Manama and the capital of Qatar at Doha. This is where Qatar is situated, surrounded by UAE, Saudi Arabia, and then you have the Persian Gulf. Okay. Bab al Mandeb is not situated in this region. Okay. Bab al Mandeb is not situated in this region. Bab al Mandeb is situated between Red Sea and the Gulf of Eden. Okay. Now, predominantly flat and arid region covered by limestone and the salt flats. Because of the dry conditions, you have high evaporation, no permanent rivers or lakes to be found. Oil and natural gas, member of OPEC Plus, and obviously you have largest US base in West Asia, that is the Al Udeid Air Base, which is situated in the region of Qatar. Now, this is where you can take a look at this practice question as well. Now, Djibouti. Djibouti has been in news owing to multiple reasons. One of the reasons is due to the setup of the military bases. There is a competition of military bases by the various different countries to set up that location in Djibouti. Now, Djibouti, if you take a look into it on the map, Djibouti is situated in this area. The overall, this area that you will observe is a depressed area. This is what is also referred to as the Afar Depression or the Danakil Depression. Now, this is where you will find saline water bodies, and also this is the region of Djibouti. Okay. Now, Bab al Mandeb is situated here. Okay. Now, if you take a look at the Danakil Depression or the Afar Depression, one of the lowest and hottest places in the world, around 155 meters below the sea level. Now, Lake Assal is a saline crater lake and rich in salt, gypsum, etc. Look at the Danakil Depression in greater detail or the Afar Depression. It is here itself that close to this region in Ethiopia, you had the eruption that was in Mount Fentale. Now, Mount Fentale eruption was again close to this Danakil Depression. Why Danakil Depression is in news? Owing to the divergence of the African plate, the breakage of the African plate to the Nubian plate and the overall Somali plate as well. So here you observe the country of Djibouti. Here you have Ethiopia. You have the Ethiopian highlands. This is where, observe, you have Lake Abbey and Lake Assal. Okay. This is very much a part of the overall depression where the African plate is splitting. Okay. Which geographical feature? Let's see if we are able to mark this. This should be easy. Which geographical feature in Djibouti is one of the lowest and hottest places on earth? Eventually, it will get submerged. Eventually, Djibouti will also get submerged with the passage of time as the rift increases. So, in this, the correct answer is Danakil Depression or the Afar Depression. Now, as I told you, Mount Fentale was in news. Now, it was in news owing to the volcanic eruption which happened. Now, Fentale is in the Ethiopian highlands. In the Ethiopian highlands is where you will find Mount Fentale. Now, released large amount of methane into the atmosphere. It was described as a geographical phenomena that is a burp, where you have large amount of plumes of smoke, mainly consisting of methane, which is. Then Mauritius, owing to the ties with India, the deepening of the defense tie, deepening of the economic ties with India. That is why Mauritius has been in news. Now, Mauritius, it is present in the southern hemisphere. If you observe the region of Mauritius, first of all, that's the mapping of it. So, this is the region of Mauritius, right? 20 degrees south, Port Louis is the capital city. Yeah. Now, this is where Mauritius is situated. If you consider the Indian Ocean, this is where Mauritius is situated. This forms a series of islands which are also referred to as the Mascarene Islands. To the north of it, you'll again find a series of islands, that is your Seychelles. And here you have the Chagos Archipelago. Chagos Archipelago is in news and has remained in news in 2024 as well, owing to the sovereignty issue. But it was claimed by Mauritius, which was supported by the UN resolutions. India also supported Mauritius in the claim over the Chagos Archipelago. This is where you have the largest, one of the larger bases of the Western forces in Indian Ocean, that is in the region of Diego Garcia. Okay, so that is the region of the Chagos Archipelago. This is where you have Diego Garcia. Here also you have Solomon Islands. Please do not confuse Solomon Islands with the Solomon Islands that you observe near Tuvalu in Pacific. Okay, so this is Solomon Islands, very much a part of the Chagos Archipelago, and you had the Solomon Islands in the region of Pacific. Then Singapore. Singapore as a country, as a region was in news, owing to again the Singapore Prime Minister's visit to India. Now, if you consider Singapore, it is surrounded by water bodies and narrow water bodies, and it is a part of the busy shipping lane. Strait of Malacca is quite close to it. You have Strait of Johor to the north, Strait of Johor to the north, and then you have the Strait of Singapore. Okay. Here also you have an island that is known as the Sentosa Island, which is quite famous for the tourist location as well. The Strait of Singapore connects the Strait of Malacca to the South China Sea. Strait of Johor, which is present to the north, and the Strait of Malacca overall has a connectivity with the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the South China Sea, through which you have maximum trade of the region carrying through. The key outcomes between India and Singapore, this is for your reference, which you can refer to the PDF later on. Okay. Now, Moldova. Moldova, basically, here there was a kind of a substantial power change, the structure change, and that is where Russia's influence appears to be weakening. Now, why Moldova is important for your mapping? It is next to Ukraine, it is a neighboring region of Ukraine. So, if you look at the map, this is where Moldova is situated. It does not share its boundary with Black Sea. So on one side you have Ukraine, on another side you have Romania. So that is the region of Moldova. Okay. Now, Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste was finally admitted into ASEAN. That is why it made news. And it is one of the Asia's youngest nations, which has gained independence only in 2002. So this is where you find the presence of Timor-Leste. Okay. Now, Timor-Leste, you have the Banda Sea to the north and Timor Sea to the south. Okay. Rich mix of Portuguese colonial heritage and the Timorese culture. Now, here you will find that in that island itself, you have the region of East Timor, okay, the region of East Timor, and the West Timor portion that is under sovereignty of Indonesia. It is the only Asian nation to be completely located in the southern hemisphere. That is the unique part about Timor Leste, the only Asian nation completely located in southern hemisphere. Now, the territory covers the eastern half of the larger Timor Island, western half is under Indonesia. It became the part of ASEAN group of nations now. Now, this is the ASEAN group admitting a member country after almost a couple of decades. So that is why it becomes important in even the ASEAN group of nations. That becomes important for your example, for your exam. Then Syria has been in news owing to, again, the US interference and the holding of the elections in the region of Syria. So, Syria is famous for sharing its border with the region of Mediterranean. Okay. Now, the countries surrounding Syria, Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and parts of Israel. So these are your countries surrounding the border of Syria. Turkey to the north, Iraq to the east, Jordan, Israel, the south and southwest, and then you have Lebanon to the west. Opens itself to the region of Mediterranean Sea. Now here you find the capital city at Damascus and Aleppo and is one of the major cities. Latakia and Tartus. These are the important coastal areas where the Russian Navy had set up bases there. So that is where the weakening of and the overthrow of the Bashar al Assad regime basically meant that Latakia and Tartus they did not have sufficient amount of backing. Now, here you will find the anti-Lebanon mountain. Here you have the Euphrates River. Euphrates and Tigris. It is in between these Euphrates and Tigris that you had the setup of the Mesopotamian civilization as well. Okay. Now it eventually converges the Euphrates and Tigris. They converge eventually in Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf. Okay. Now, which of the countries border Syria? This should be easy for you, right? Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iran. Which of them they basically border Syria? Let me know. D now. So, other than Iran, it is Iraq which shares its border with Syria. It is not the case of Iran. So, the correct answer in this case is going to be 1, 2, and 3 only. Chabahar port in Iran was in news owing to India getting a 6-month waiver from the US sanctions. Now, the location of Chabahar port, this is where you'll find Chabahar port is situated. Okay. Now, this is where India had invested substantially in order to gain access to Afghanistan and eventually even to Central Asia, because it was from Chabahar that you could enter and you would basically reach Zahedan. So, from Chabahar to Zahedan, a rail line was being developed, and then from Zaranj, you would enter into Afghanistan, getting access to Kandahar, Herat, and all those areas. Okay. Now, here it is very, very close to Kandla port. It is close to Chabahar that you have the competition that is developed by Pakistan, being developed by Pakistan, that is the Gwadar port. So from Chabahar port, a road network leads all the way up till Zaranj, where the rail line is also or being laid. Okay. Now, here, India and Iran, they signed an MOU way back in 2015, developed the Shahid Beheshti port at Chabahar, right? And that is important for India. And it is located, overall, the geographical location is the Sistan Balochistan region of the Makran coast in Iran. Okay. Now, then after that, Pasni port in Pakistan was in news. Pasni port is was it in news? Because Pakistan offered it to US, very close to Gwadar port. So that is where Pakistan offered it for the development of the Pasni port so that the US can come there. Now, China has been investing in the Gwadar port as a part of China Pakistan economic corridor. Now, Pasni port was being developed or is seen to be developed so that you can also have the US entry into this region. This is where you have the port of Pasni. This is where you have Chabahar. This is where you have Gwadar. And this is where you have the port of Pasni. Okay. You want the questions to be discussed, all the questions to be discussed as well? Right. Some of the questions I'm basically leaving so that you can practice it at the end of the session as well. You want the questions to be discussed? Let's discuss the question. Okay. Regarding the Chabahar port, consider the following statements. It is located in the Makran coast of Iran's Sistan Balochistan province next to the Gulf of Oman. It is the only Iranian port with direct access to the Indian Ocean. The port development is based on the tripartite agreement signed in 2016 between India, Iran, and Afghanistan. The Zaranj Delaram Road, constructed with India's assistance, connects it directly to key cities in Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan. How many of them are correct? Let me know how many of them are correct amongst them. Only two? B or C? Okay. Let's examine the statements, all the statements one by one. So, Makran coast of Iran's Sistan Balochistan province, right? And it is the only Iranian port with the direct access to the Indian Ocean. The first two statements are correct, right? Then MOU, signed an MOU to jointly develop the case of the Shah Behesti, but you had the tripartite agreement in 20, right? So that third statement is also correct, right? Then after that, you basically had the Zaranj Delaram Road provides connectivity where it does provide connectivity to the region of Afghanistan, not Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan, right? So here, that is where the fourth statement is incorrect. Okay, right. The port development is basically based on the MOU in 2015. Tripartite agreement led the Zaranj Delaram. So the third statement will be incorrect and fourth statement will also be incorrect. So the correct answer is only two, that is B. Is that correct? Are we satisfied in this? Hope you understand. MOU in 2015 led to the Shah Beheshti development. Then the tripartite agreement in 2016 led to the entire network development from Taranj, Delaram in all these areas, Zahedan region. So that is why the port development is actually based upon the agreement MOU between India and Iran when in 2015. Okay. Now, the Pasni port we have seen. Now, Pasni port, located in the Arabian Sea, deep water harbor in Balochistan's Gwadar district. It is also the location of the Pakistan Maritime Security Agency. Now, Aini in Tajikistan was in news. Why? Aini in Tajikistan was in news because of the fact that India had set up an air base in that region and had pulled out of the air base in 2022 itself, but the news broke out recently in 2025. So, if you observe the region of Tajikistan, that is what becomes important. So, Indian Air Force had an overseas base in Tajikistan in the region of Aini. So, Tajikistan overall is an important country. Now, this is not a part of many of the alliances here you will see. Now, it is bordered to the east by China, to the east by China, to the south by Afghanistan, right? Then you basically have Kyrgyzstan, which is again one of the major borders and the major countries surrounding this in the north. So then you have Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, China, and Afghanistan. So this is where you have the Uzbekistan, right? So all these are the regions of Tajikistan which surrounds the region. Now here you have the mountain systems and some of the major streams in this region. So basically Sir Darya, Amu Darya, they are also known as Panj in Tajikistan. So Sir Darya and Amu Darya, this is where you have Sir Darya. So that has become and has been relevant for the strategic reasons in the area of Central Asia. Now here you have again another area which was in news is the Fedchenko Glacier, right? Fedchenko Glacier is the largest non-polar glacier in the world. It is the melting and the disappearance of the Fedchenko Glacier which has made it again prominent for the news stories in 2025. So Fedchenko Glacier is situated in the region of, yeah, in this portion of Tajikistan. You would observe the presence, yeah. Pamirs, the roof of the world, that is situated in southern part of Tajikistan. Now, this basically means all the areas and places in use across the world is now covered. Okay. So if you revise this portion, it is substantially sufficient. Look at the surrounding regions also, substantially sufficient for your overall examination for the prelims. Okay, this is exhaustive list, and you will get the PDF also from from the case of ASEAN to the case of SCO. Everything we have covered, including the countries. Now we come to very quickly some of the regions within India which have been in. Now these are smaller, lesser in number. Globally, it is more important for you to look into it. India, most of you would be aware about the major things. Asan wetland. Now, Asan wetland was in news owing to the Asian waterbird census, which was held in the month of January. Now, Asan wetland, if you take a look into it, where is Asan wetland situated? Asan wetland is situated where you have the confluence of River Yamuna. Okay, River Yamuna and the Asan River. So you have the Asan River and the Yamuna River. Okay, so that is where you have the wetland ecosystem, which is having a large amount of bird population also. So that is where water bird census was carried out. Asian water bird census was carried out. Now it was created due to the damming of the Asan River way back in 1967. It is a biodiversity hub. It is a part of the Central Asian Flyway, part of Central Asian Flyway. Okay. Because it is a part of the Central Asian Flyway, that is why it basically does involve multiple migratory birds taking shelter during the winter month. Critically endangered white-rumped vulture is also to be found in this area. Then, Baglihar and Salal dams were in use. Now, Baglihar and Salal dams, so where do you find them? This is where you'll find the presence. Now, both of them are present on which river? On River Chenab. Both of them are present on River Chenab. Now, this was in news post Operation Sindoor because that is where you had the Pakistanis trying to attack this. And also, the Indian government basically wanted to increase the water level in these areas. So, here you have the Baglihar Dam in this region. Okay. And here you have the Salal Dam. The Kishan Ganga project is on River Jhelum after the tributary that is Kishan Ganga. Right? So, here itself, you also have the Tulbul Barrage, which was also in use. So, Bagrihar, Salal, and then Tulbul Barrage. I will give you the list of the origin of these rivers associated with the Indus River Basin also, which is important for your prelims. So here, if you consider the region of the Tulbul project, now there was conversation post Operation Sindoor to revive the Tulbul project to ensure water sufficiency in the region around Srinagar. So it was conceived in 1984 is when the work began on River Jhelum, and it is where you have the Vuller Lake. Now, River Jhelum drains through the region of Vuller Lake. Vuller Lake is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the country of India, and it is present in the region of the fault zone. Now, here, basically, government proposed to construct a long barrage with a storage capacity. Now, it has been stuck for a long period of time owing to the Indus Water Treaty. But again, the conversations began to reinvigorate the Tulbul project. Now, as per the Indus Water Treaty, you would have read that you have the western rivers and the eastern rivers. So, which are the part of the western rivers? Now, Western rivers are where the rights are with Pakistan. India doesn't have the right to hold the water. So, Western rivers, you have Indus, you have Jhelum, and then you have Chenab. Eastern rivers, you basically will find the river systems that is Satluj, then Ravi, and Beas. Out of this, all the rivers they drain from India into Pakistan, other than Beas. Beas is a river which is completely draining only into the region of India. It doesn't move into Pakistan. Okay. So that is why Beas is an exception out of all of them. So these are some of the tributaries of the overall Indus River system. The Himalayan tributaries, Gilgit, Taskar, Hunza, Nubra, and so on. But it is the left bank tributaries which become vital. That is the case of the Panjnath, which meets at Mithankot. So where do they originate from? Indus originates from the Bokharchu Glacier in the Kailash ranges near Lake Mansarovar. That is where Indus originates, Bokharchu Glacier. Jhelum originates from the Verinag Glacier. Then Chenab, it originates as two streams, Chandra and Bhaga, from the Chandratal in the region of the Baralacha Pass. So here, from the Baralacha Pass in the Lahore Spiti region in the Dhauladhar area of Himachal is where it originates. Satluj again originates from the region around Lake Mansarovar from Rakastal. That is where it originates through Shipkila Pass. Satluj enters into India. Ravi, Kulu Hills from the in the region of the area of the Rohtang Pass. That is where Ravi originates. And Byas originates from what is known as the Byas Kund in Rohtang Pass. So Ravi and Byas, both of them originate from Rohtang Pass, right? Another river which originates from a pass area that is Chenab from the Baralacha Pass area that is Chandratal. And Jhelum, Verinag Glacier. Then you have Indus, that is from Bokharchu Glacier. Then you have Satluj, that is from Rakasta. Okay. Now, which of the following rivers form a boundary between India and Pakistan? Take a look at this. Form a boundary between India and Pakistan. So, in fact, other than Bias, all of the rivers as they drain, to some extent, they do form a boundary. For example, if you observe here, observe the case of the flow of Chenab, even Jhelum here. If you observe Jhelum in this region, Chenab in this region, Chenab rather, here you will observe this. Then you will observe Ravi also. Then you will observe Satluj also. So all of them, they basically form some area of the international boundary. Okay. Now, Dev Prayag was in news owing to the longest rail tunnel between, that is where it was finally completed. That is the Rishikesh Karna Prayag line. Now, you don't need to know about the tunnel per se, but Karna Prayag, Dev Prayag, both have been in news. So you need to be aware about the Panch Prayags in Uttarakhand. Now, Panch Prayags, these are the set of confluences of the streams which eventually forms what we refer to as River Ganga. So it basically originates overall, if you will observe, it originates initially as Alaknanda. Alaknanda will originate from Satopant Glacier near Badrinath. Badrinath. That is where Alaknanda will originate from. Okay. Then initially Alaknanda is joined by, on the left bank side by a river that is Holy Ganga. Holy Ganga. Okay. Here you have Alaknanda. Right. Now they will meet each other, forming a confluence. That is, Prayag is the name associated with confluences. So they will form a confluence at the region of Vishnu Prayag. So this is where first you have the presence of Vishnu Prayag. That is where Holy Ganga is going to meet with Alaknanda. Then after that, from Nandakini, two streams originate from different sides of Nandakini. From one side, you have from Nanda Devi rather. From Nanda Devi, you have one of the stream which originates, that is Nandakini, and Nandakini will meet Alaknanda at a region that is Nandaprayag. Okay, at a region which is referred to as Nandaprayag. Then to the south or another further south, you will find from Nanda Devi, Pindar Ganga also originates from the region close to Nanda Devi, and that will join Alaknanda at the region which is known as Karnaprayag. Meanwhile, from the region of Kedarnath, another stream originates which is known as Mandakini. Mandakini will meet with Alaknanda at the region which is referred to as Rudraprayag. Already the flow of the water has increased by now. Finally, from the Gomukh Glacier in Gangotri, Bhagirathi does originate and meet at Devprayag. So that is where, after Devprayag, the stream is known as River Ganga. So you have the Panch Prayags starting with Vishnu Prayag, then Nandakini meeting at Nandaprayag, then Pindar Ganga meeting at Karnaprayag, Mandakini meeting at Rudraprayag, and Bhagirathi meeting at. Eventually, Yamuna, which originates from Yamunotri, will also meet Ganga at Allahabad, also known as Prayagraj. Okay, take a look at this particular question. Let us see if we are able to recall this. Consider the following confluences of the rivers: Dholi Ganga and Alaknanda. They meet at Vishnu Prayag, Mandakini and Alaknanda at Karna Prayag, Nandakini and Mandakini, that is at Nandaprayag. Which of the above are? Or what is the correct answer for this? Do let me know. What is the correct answer for this? In this, the first statement, Dholi Ganga and Alaknanda, They will be meeting at Vishnu Prayag. So this is correct. Mandakini and Alaknanda, where do they meet? They meet at Rudraprayag. Rudraprayag. So this is incorrect. Nandakini and Mandakini, do they meet each other? They don't, isn't it? Nandakini will meet Alaknanda at Nandaprayag. Mandakini will meet Alaknanda at Rudraprayag. And you have to find out which is incorrectly matched. So 2 and 3, they are incorrectly matched. So that is why the correct answer is B, that is 2 and 3. I hope that is now understood. Do keep a lookout for what is mentioned correctly or incorrectly matched. Okay. Now, Koleru Lake was in news owing to the NGT's order to prevent or ban construction across this region by Andhra Pradesh. Now, Koleru Lake, very important and a kind of a flood reservoir between the Krishna and the Godavari rivers. So, it is again, it was something which was asked in the prelims previously when UPSC had asked that Krishna drains through the Koleru Lake. So it is one of the India's largest freshwater lake ecosystem, which is a Ramsar site, a hotspot across the Central Asian flyway. It is situated between the Godavari to the north, and this is where you have the Koleru Lake. Okay, Koleru Lake, Godavari to the north, and Krishna the south. So whenever you have excess rainfall, excess water, Koleru Lake absorbs that or takes in that and becomes larger size. Now, Virinium port was in use throughout last year. Now, this Virinium port marks a major stride that India has taken in order to improve its connectivity and in order to gain a larger share in terms of even international trade. Now, Virinium port, by the way, also forms one of the southernmost major ports across our country. Now, it has basically, this is not the first time that Virinium has been a port city. Inscriptions from the Pandya Chola era records Virinium as Rajendra Chola Pattanam, a port of Kerala. So it was a port earlier as well. Now, historians claim that Balita, right? Now, this is where basically is Virinium's old name. Palita, which has got its evidence in the first century historical travelogue, that is the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. So there also Balita is used. So historians argue that it is nothing but the Virinium port. Now, Virinium port is very important for because India does not have many deep water ports. It has got a substantial draft depth, which can actually accommodate larger shipping carriers and shipping vessels in this. So these are the major ports across the country. If you observe the major ports, amongst the northernmost is the Kandla port or the Deen Dayal port. Then you have the Mumbai, the JNPT, right? The Nava Sheva and the JNPT. Then you have Panji, Marmagao, Bangalore, Kochi. This is where you have Virinium port. This is the region where you will have the Virinium port. Okay. Tuticorin is also situated at 8-degree latitude. Virinium port is also situated at 8-degree latitude. The difference being Virinium is at 8.3, Tuticorin is at 8.7. So this question, that which is the southernmost major port, that question you have to take care that it is the Virinium port. Then you have the Tuticorin, the Chennai, then the Ennore Kamrajar port, which is a private, then Vishakhapatnam, Paradeep. Now, in this particular ports, you can have the north to south kind of a question, which can be okay. So, arrange the following Indian ports from north to south: Virinium, Kamrajar, north to south. Tell me which is the correct answer. So, northernmost in this will be which one? You will have Kamrajar port. That is the northernmost. Then after that, you will have basically the Cochin, right? So you have Kamrajar port here, then you have the Kochi, right? So Kamrajar, then Kochi, and then Virinium. The correct answer is going to be okay. Now, Kaleshwaram lift project was in news owing to the construction deficiencies and the investigating committee finding it to be inadequate for future development. Now, the Kaleshwaram lift project is actually present across river Godavari. So, across river Godavari, to utilize the meeting point of Godavari and Indravati, that is where, and to make the region navigable and also surplus water in an otherwise drier region, that is where you have the Kaleshwaram lift project. Okay, this is where you have the Kaleshwaram lift project, and this is river Godavari. Okay, so when we talk about Godavari, the tributaries have been asked previously in the prelims twice. So here, Pravara, Purna, Manjra, right bank, important right bank tributary, Penganga, Vardha, Venganga, Pranhita, right? So Kaleshwaram is where you have Godavari and the Pranhita coming in. Indravati joins Godavari much later. Indravati joins Godavari in the region around Chhattisgarh. So here you have Pranhita and the Godavari coming in. Okay. So here, water storage structures are built across these regions. So, for example, across Manjra, you have the water storage structure that is Singur, Nizam Sagar. These are the water storage structures to provide water in the otherwise drier areas of Vidarbh in Maharashtra and also in the region of Telangana, which don't have that much amount of rain. Penganga, Vardha, Venganga, these are the tributaries. Now, these waters, they join together to form the stream that is Pranhita. Indravati originates from the region of Odisha through Chhattisgarh, eventually meets with Godavari. Okay? Which of the following water storage structures are situated across the Godavari river system? Do let me know what is the correct answer. In this, what will be the correct answer? So, Singur is situated, yes, across Manjra, Nizam Sagar, again across Manjra, Kaleshwaram, where you have Godavari and Pranhita, they end up meeting, and then eventually Polavaram, again the lower end of Godavari. Okay, so all the above will be the correct answer. Mount Makalu was in use. Just look at the location of Mount Makalu. This is where you basically have Makalu in the Nepal Himalayas. This is where Mount Makalu is situated. Okay. Overall, if you take a look at the Himalayan range, this is where you will find the presence of Makalu. You have Kanchenjunga, partly in India and partly in Nepal. Then here, other important, for example, Annapurna, very one of the most difficult mountains to climb to summit. That is Annapurna, Dholagiri, Nanda Devi, right? Nanga Parbat and Namcha Barwa are important because they offer syntactial bend in the region of the Himalayan ranges. Okay, so here you have Makalu and Kanchenjunga, Annapurna in the Nepal Himalaya. Arrange the following peaks of Himalayas from east to west. Take a look into it. So, easternmost will be which one? Easternmost will be Namcha Barwa. It is present in the region of to the north of Arunachal, right? So, three that will be easternmost. Then, Nanga Parbat is the westernmost. Nanga Parbat is situated here. So, Nanga Parbat will be the westernmost. So, one will be at the end, right? Now, after Namcha Barwa, you will have Kanchenjunga at the bordering region between India and Nepal. Then you will have Makalu, that is in the region of eastern Nepal. Then you have Annapurna, that is in the region of, again, central Nepal. So the correct answer in this case is going to be B, 351. Okay. Now, some of the protected areas were in use. Bhimgarh Wildlife Sanctuary. Where is Bhimgarh Wildlife Sanctuary? So this is where It is situated in the bordering region between Karnataka and Goa is where Bhimgad Wildlife Sanctuary is situated. Now it is close to the Anshi Dandeli Tiger Reserve and the national park as well. So this is where it was declared. It is situated in the Belgaum district of Karnataka, shares its boundary with the Dandeli Wildlife Sanctuary, and also in the region of Goa with the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary, and that is a tiger corridor, right? So that is why Bhimgarh keeps on being in news. Now, it has been named after the Bhimgarh fort, which was commissioned and commanded by Shivaji Maharaj in the 17th century as defense from the Portuguese invasions, right? Now, it forms the headwaters of multiple rivers, amongst them Mahadei is important, and some of the perennial streams as well. Now, the region of the Bhimgarh Wildlife Sanctuary is known for the Barapede caves. Okay. Now, the only known breeding area of the free-tailed bat, a threatened species. Then Anamalai Tiger Reserve, the counting for the monsoon season for Anamalai Tiger Reserve made it in news. Anamalai Tiger Reserve is actually situated in the region around the confluence or to the south of the Nilgiris itself. Now, this is a region which receives higher amount of rainfall. That is why, unlike the rest of the central and the eastern Tamil Nadu, this is something which is densely forested. Right now, here basically altitude of 1400 meters in the Polachi and Coimbatore district of Tamil Nadu. Okay, located in the southern side of the Nilgiris, that is the confluence. Now, here you will find the Shola vegetation, the Karyan Shola, grass hills, all of them are considered to be World Heritage by UNESCO. Then, Karragutta Hills was in news because of the operation which was carried out to eliminate large amount of Naxal population from that area. That is why Karragutta Hills were in news. So here, Karragutta Hills at the border region, so in the region around the Sukma district of Chhattisgarh, that is where, and bordering with Telangana, that is where you have the presence of Karragutta Hills. And that indicates one of the final bastions of the Naxal movement. So the Red Corridor in India, which was symbolic with the Naxals and the left-wing extremist elements, that is to be eliminated by March 2026, that is this year. So that is why you will find that the Karragutta Hills were one of the final holdups. River Kulsi, lot of opposition on the ground owing to the plan to construct some amount of dam structure, right? So River Kulsi is a smaller stream which originates from the Meghalayan highlands. So West Khasi Hills, where it is also known as the Cree River, travels for around 12 kilometers within Meghalaya before entering Assam. Now, from this point, it is known as the Kulsi River. In Assam, it is known as Kulsi River. It crosses into the Kamrup district. Right now, why it was in news? Assam and Meghalaya government, they decided to set up jointly 55 megawatt of hydropower project. It is the nesting ground for river dolphin, also to be found across river Kulsi. Now, across the same region, across the Kulsi River, you will find the presence of a lake in that region, that is the Chandbi Lake, which is an important area for the case of even the picnic spots, tourist destination as well. Now, it is present in a fault region, which was created during an earthquake, a massive earthquake which occurred in the region in the 1800s that created the Chandbi Lake. Okay. Now, it consider with reference to the Kulsi River, consider the following statements. It is a tributary of the Brahmaputra River, known for supporting the habitat of endangered Gangetic River dolphin, forms a depositional oxbow lake in the state of Assam named Chandubi. So, is it a tributary of the Brahmaputra River? Yes, it is a left bank tributary of Brahmaputra River. Supporting the habitat for Gangetic River dolphin? Yes. Does it form a depositional oxbow lake? No. Chandbi Lake has been created due to earthquake and opening up of a fault zone. That is why Chandbi Lake has been, right. So in this, correct answer and the correct statements are going to be 1 and 2. Okay? Yeah. Now, River Subarnarekha was in news owing to the large amount of floodings which occurred, and Subarnarekha has been asked previously in the prelims examination as well. So, when you consider River Subarnarekha, it originates from the Ranchi Plateau, the Ranchi Highlands, and then eventually it drains into Bay of Bengal. It drains through the regions of Jharkhand and West Bengal majorly. Okay, so here Singhbhum region of Jharkhand is through where it drains, and this is where it will also be draining through the cities of Ranchi to the cities of Jamshedpur, Tatanagar. So waterfall, famous waterfall, that is the Hundru Fall. Now you have some of the tributaries, smaller ones, Karkai, Ranchi, etc., Kanchi, which are not that important. Chandil Dam near Jamshedpur is a water storage structure across Suvarnrekha. Now, Subarnarekha Waterway is the national waterway number 96 as per the Act. Okay. Now, here, basically, you can take a look at the question. We move ahead with River Indrayani, on which a bridge collapsed, leading to the sad demise of individuals as well. So, Indrayani is a tributary of the Bhima River. Bhima River, mind you, is one of those larger tributaries of River Krishna, which at the point of confluence till that point of time is almost equal to the size of River Krishna, almost, right? It is a rain-fed river that originates from the Western Ghats near Lonavala and flows through the Pune district. That is where Pune district, which river drains through Pune district? For that kind of question, this can come into answer. So this is where you have River Indrayani, which eventually forms the part of the Bhima River system, which eventually forms a part of the Krishna River system. Now, it is on the banks of this river that you have two important places, Alandi and Dehu. Okay. Now, why they are important? Dehu is the hometown of the poet Saint Tukaram. You would have read about Tukaram, Saint Tukaram in history, medieval history, and Alandi, Samadhi of the poet Gyaneshwar. So that is where both of them they lie on the banks of Indra. Industrial town of Pimpri Chinchwad and Pune, both of them. Okay, so it flows through the districts and forms the part of the Krishna River system. Okay, so here I hope these are the questions that you will be able to solve. River Tavi, again in news owing to the large floodings which occurred in Tavi. Now Tavi is the stream which drains through Jammu region. Okay, so Tavi is a stream which drains through the region of Jammu. So here rises from the Kalpas Kund of the Seodhar in the region of Doda district of Jammu and Kashmir, and basically approximately 141 kilometers entering into Pakistan's Punjab and merging with the Chenab River. It basically divides the Jammu city into two segments, the newer and the older town. So this is your river Tavi. Okay, if you observe this, basically this is your river Tavi. Okay, and drains and meets with Chenab in the region of Pakistan. Shipkila was in news. Now, Shipkila, basically, Himachal has opened Shipkila for tourists. Now, Shipkila is important because it is from here that River Satluj enters into India. So, River Satluj, after originating from Rakastal near Lake Mansarovar, enters into India through Shipkila Pass. La means pass in the local language. So, that is why Shipkila. Now, it also forms one of the important border exchange points between India and China. So you have Nathula, Shipkila, and basically Lipu Lake. They form the important changing point. So it was earlier known as the Pemala, and vital trade route between India and Tibet since the 5th century. It facilitated India-Tibet trade with imports like wool, livestock, and so on. Nathula, Nathula again, basically important for the pilgrimage for Mansarovar. So this is where Nathula is situated. Okay. It shares, that is where we share the boundary with China. So it is situated in the northeastern part of Sikkim, not in the western or eastern part. So it is in the northwestern part of Sikkim. That is where you have Nathula. So basically, it is one of the three open trading border posts between India and China. That is Shipkila, Nathula, and Lipu Lake. Lipu Lake is at the tri junction between India, Nepal, and China. That is in the region of Uttarakhand. Okay. Now, which of the following mountain passes forms the official border crossing between India and China? Should be easy. Shipkila, Nathula, and Lipu Lake. Right? Manala is present in which state? Manala is also present in the state of Uttarakhand. Manala, Nitila, and Lipu Lake. These are the three passes of Uttarakhand. But that doesn't form an official border trading. Lipu Lake. So Lipu Lake is basically at the tri junction. Lipu Lake is at the tri junction area. Yeah. That is why you had a lot of conflict between Nepal and India as well, obviously aggravated by Chinese. So that is where you have the Lipu Lake Pass. It facilitates the Mansarovar tri-junction between India, Nepal, and China. Right now, after that, the some of the other protected areas in news. So you have the Periyar Tiger Reserve. So Periyar Tiger Reserve, new species were found present in the region of the Kerala, the eastern region of Kerala. That is where you have the Periyar Tiger Reserve, known after the Periyar River in the Cardamom Hills and the Pandalam Hills of the Western Ghats. Cardamom Hills forms the southernmost extent of the region of Western Ghats. Okay. Now, it surrounds the Periyar Lake, artificial lake created in 1895 by building a dam across the Periyar River to divert the water some parts to Tamil Nadu. Okay. Now, the Greater Flamingo Sanctuary at Dhanushkodi. Now, that was notified by Tamil Nadu, again, in an effort to preserve the wildlife in the region. So, basically, it is present in the region around Rameshwaram in Dhanushkodi, right? In the Ramanathapuram district, in the ecologically sensitive area of the Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve. You will have some of the shifting dunes, mud flats, marshes present. Now, River Brahmaputra was in news owing to the fact that China is constructing dams across the Great Bend of River Brahmaputra. So, this is where the Great Bend of Brahmaputra exists. Brahmaputra in the region of Tibet is known as Yarlung Sangpo or simply Sangpo, meaning the purifier. When it enters Arunachal, that is when it is known by the name Siang or Dehang. After Sadia, when it enters the Assam plains, that is when it is known by the name Brahmaputra, up till Dhubri in Assam, when it enters into Bangladesh. So, Chinese have already constructed the Zangmu Dam here, and now they are constructing the dam across the Great Bend in Brahmaputra. This is where you have the Namcha Barwa peak in the eastern Himalaya. Okay, these are some of the major tributaries. So, left bank tributaries, Dibang, Lohit is one of the major ones. Then you will basically find that these are basically your right bank tributaries. Okay, these are your right bank tributaries. So these are don't need to learn all the right bank and the left bank tributaries, but overall just the major tributaries. This is a question which UPSC had asked earlier as well. Which of the following is or are tributaries of Brahmaputra? This was a question asked in 2015 prelims. Now, Debang, Kaming, and Lohit, all of these basically formed the tributaries across River Brahmaputra. So that is why the correct answer is D. Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, again, in which portion? It is situated in the eastern extremity of Rajasthan. That is where it is present and it was in news. So, first of all, situated in the eastern part of Rajasthan in the Savai Madhopur region, rugged hills, rocky outcrops, Aravali range, and some part of the outcrops of the Vindhyan range are also to be found. Tropical dry deciduous and grassland. Which rivers? In from the region of Ranthambore, you have Banas and Chambal, part of the Yamuna river system, which drains. through this. Machilipatnam was in use in order to revive the ancient port in the region of Machilipatnam. So Machilipatnam is a very old and ancient port. Where is it situated? In the coast of Andhra Pradesh. Now, some of the final places in use: Gulf of Mannar. Now, Gulf of Mannar, where is it situated? In the southeastern part of India. And this is where rich in biodiversity. Now, this is where the recharge or the reinvigoration of the corals have happened. So, large shallow bay located between the southeastern tip of India and the western coast of Sri Lanka, part of the larger Laccadive Sea, okay, in the northern Indian Ocean. It has been declared as a biosphere reserve by UNESCO. Pilibhit Tiger Reserve in the region of Uttar Pradesh. Now, that is where it sees a massive rise in tiger population and also the man animal conflict. This is where the Pilibhit Tiger Reserve is situated. It is through this region that you will find one of the major tributaries of River Ganga, that is Gomti, which drains through this area. Now, located in the Pilibhit district of the in the Pilibhit region, and also the Lakhimpur Kheri district, the Baraich district of Uttar Pradesh. It is present across the Tarai belt, the Tarai arc of the Indo-Nepal bordering region. The entire area from the south of Corbett, Rajaji, Pilibhit, extending into Valmiki, Buksa, Manas, the entire region of the area is known as the Tarai belt. That has got rich amount of vegetation and very rich in biodiversity. Well, River Gomti originates from the Pilibhit Tiger Reserve. From which area? From Gomattal. Gomattal. And several other tributaries drain through the area. Almatti Dam, again in use. Now, Almatti Dam is across which river system? That is something you need to understand. So, Almatti Dam across River Krishna in the state of Karnataka. Okay. So, Krishna River system in the state of Karnataka. Okay. Irrigation for the Upper Krishna irrigation project and generates large amount of electricity. These are some of the dams across River Krishna. Almatti Dam in the state of Karnataka. Then you have Narayanpur Dam in Yadagiri district of Karnataka again. Srisailam Dam at the Andhra Telangana border in the Nalamala Hills in Kurnool. And Nagarjun Sagar, that is again Telangana Andhra border in the region of Nalgonda. So that is where these are the major dams across Krishna. Okay. This is an easy question. In which state of India is Almaty Dam situated? So Almaty Dam is situated along with the case of the Narayanpur Dam or the Basavasagar in Karnataka. Pong Dam in Himachal. Now, that was again in news. Now, Pong Dam, this is where you have the larger reservoir created, which becomes an important Ramsar site as well. This is also known as the Maharana Pratap Sagar, is located in the Kangra district of Himachal Pradesh, and this is formed by the Byas River. It is on the Byas River where you will find the presence of Pong Dam. It is designated as a Ramsar site. Now, what is also very unique about the reservoir in this Pong Dam is that the reservoir consists a host of submerged temples, where during the rainy season, as the water level rises, it is impossible to access these temples. But then during the dry season, that is when you can reach those temples. Those are known as the Bathu temples or the Bathu Kiladi. Now, it is basically dedicated to Goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva, submerged in the Maharana Pratap Sagar in the Pong Dam Reservoir, created 1970. So, on which river is the Pong Dam located? On Yes. Then Palk Bay, first dugong reserve, is created in the region of Palk Bay. So, where is Palk Bay? So, basically, Gulf of Mannar to the south. Then you had the Dhanushkodi region, the Ramanathapuram region, and then to the north you have the Palk Bay. So this is separated by the narrow Palk Strait, which basically connects it to the region of Bay of Bengal. Now this is where, in this area of the coastal Tamil Nadu region, is where you have the Dugong Sanctuary, which is created. So here, bounded by Palk Strait in the south and basically Bay of Bengal in the north, right? Then Sir Creek in Gujarat, That was also in news, owing to the challenges from Pakistan and also the assertion by the defense minister. Now, Sir Creek is a disputed region in the area of Gujarat between India and Pakistan. Now, India basically claims the Thalweg line, that is the midpoint of the creek. That is what India claims as the border. Pakistan wants the entirety of the region of the Sir Creek. Now, during the monsoonal season, the width of the creek varies substantially because the flow varies significantly. Now, creek is what? Creek is a natural stream of water, much smaller than a river, a stream which is dependent on rains also. So that is why Sir Creek has got, and it is going to form estuarine ecosystem eventually. So it has got a large amount of fish catch. Red snapper, one of the costliest fish available, that is caught in large numbers in the region of Sir Creek. So from the region of Sir Creek, you will observe frequently multiple fishermen being arrested by the Indian and also the Pakistani side. Now here, what you have to also notice is where Kori Creek is situated. Creek is also something which is in news, where sometimes intrusions are detected by the Pakistani fishermen in the region of the Kori Creek as well. So Kori Creek is to the east of Sir Creek region. So this is where you have the Thalweg principle. Thalweg principle, the central portion of the stream, that is the Thalweg. So that is something which is claimed by India and it is disputed by Pakistan. Green line indicates what is claimed by Pakistan. Okay, India claims half of Sir Creek and therefore the marshlands that borders Pakistan's Keti Bandar Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, this is the practice question. Now, Sir Creek, one of the westernmost. So here to take a look at the correct or the incorrect, look into the question. Let me know the answer in the comments below. Ladakh, owing to the protests in Ladakh, that region is always in news. Now, when you are taking a look at the region of Ladakh, better to look at the surrounding areas, including Siachen and so on. So, here, when you consider the region of Leh and Ladakh, here you have the Nubra Valley, right? Here you have the Siachen Glacier. This is the region of the Siachen Glacier. The Shaksgam Valley, which has been doing rounds and which is in news for the past week. This is basically a part, this has been handed over to China by the Pakistanis in a deal. This is the Aksai Chin, which is claimed by the Chinese. This is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is under the occupation of the Pakistani forces. Now, Bilafondla is a pass immediately to the south of Siachen, which is of vital strategic importance. That is why multiple battles have been fought at Bilafondla. Do search the Battle of Bilafondla to come across some of the glowing tales there. This is where the dispute with China broke out across the entire region. You have the Galwan Valley, then you have the Pangong So Lake in this region. Okay, so that is the case of Depsangla and Bilafondla. These are some of the, and here you will find the Karakoram Pass, the Agil Pass, the region around. Ekta Nagar or Kevadia was in news. Now, where is Ekta Nagar? Ekta Nagar is basically Narmada district in the Narmada district of Gujarat. So basically, the Sardar Sarovar Dam, which is across River Narmada. So that is where you have the larger reservoir across which the Statue of Unity is constructed, which is an important tourist place as well. This was asked in the geography optional map pointing last year. That is what makes it important for the prelims in GS in the coming year as well. Bandipur Tiger Reserve in the state of Karnataka, one of the largest tiger and elephant, one of the larger tiger and elephant population that you will find in the region around Bandipur. So if you observe Bandipur, it is in the larger part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which forms the connectivity region between western and the eastern Ghats, which allows for the migration of carnivores and also herbivores. Here you will find the presence of dry deciduous, thorny vegetation, as well as grasses and also the tropical moist deciduous. That is why you will find such a variation of vegetation which can feed large amount of herbivore population. roll. Okay. Now, it is drained by the stream that is Moyar. Earlier, it used to be the private hunting lodges of the Vodayar kings of the region. Significant wildlife sanctuary in the Chamrajnagar district. Now, it was in news because recently the tiger attacks had killed a lot of individuals. Around 5 to 6 farmers were killed because of the tiger attacks in Bandipur. Okay, former hunting reserve of the Vodayar. Okay, so that basically brings us to the end of the session, and we have managed to discuss more than 100 to 120 places and around close to 130 places in news across the world and across India as well. So, this is a comprehensive discussion that we have carried out, where if you analyze all of these and if you take a look at the neighboring countries, the regions in news, chances are that you will be in a much better position when the prelims examination comes to the doorstep. Now, if you have benefited from the session, do put that in the comment section. The questions that we have discussed, do take a look at all these questions as well. And ideally, what I would advise you that do revise the part of the session by the timestamps and all the PDF itself within a week. Don't let it linger on for very long. So within a week, do revise the session. Now, the link for the downloading the PDF can be found in the description below as well as you will find that link in my Telegram channel. From there also, you can basically download the PDF. Okay, the annotations of the PDF as well. So that will be all from my side here today. I hope that you did like the session. If you did, click on the like, share, and the subscribe button. And till we meet again, do take care of yourself. Goodbye. Have a good night.